If your job at a healthcare facility includes disinfecting against viruses, you know prevention is the best medicine. And maintaining healthy spaces starts with a healthy cleaning routine. Grainger's world-class supply chain helps ensure you have the quality products you need when you need them. From disinfectants and cleaning supplies to personal protective equipment, so you can help deliver a clean bill of health. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Check engine light on? Take the guesswork out of your check engine light with O'Reilly Veriscan. It's free. Ask for O'Reilly Veriscan today.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Live at lunch.
You are looking live.
Live at lunch. Live at lunch with Ott and Hanny on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
What the hell's going on out here?
Now, here's Jimmy Ott and Charles Hannegriff.
For some reason or another, you sound a little taller on radio.
Is it live?
We are live here on a Lundy Gras. Happy Lundy Gras to everybody out there. Jimmy Ott. Charlie's chasing chickens in Mamu for the next 2 days, so he will be out. Henry Hayes, Max Gotro with us here live from the Queen Casino, the DraftKings Sportsbook, as we kick off your holiday. And, you know, a lot of people out of town doing something, taking some days off. If you're usually at work, welcome aboard. If you're out of town, need your in-town fix, we got it for you over here. So lots going on in sports as usual. So, boy, you talk about Max has got to be a little bit upset. His pick, it was not a consensus pick, but, man, our golf picks were all over the leaderboard. Knapp, the Napster, who shot a 59, had only the 15th 59 in the history of the PGA Tour. Looked like he was going to go gate to wire, but has a Claude Van de Velde type of moment and just starts chopping away at a ball in the muck. And I'm like, what are you doing? Triple bogey basically knocks him out of the lead, out of contention. And so that was a tough one. We'll talk to Max a little bit about that in a second. LSU baseball team, Charlie and I can disagree from time to time. And, you know, the motive, the approach on the weak non-conference schedule, he's got his opinion. I got mine. I don't see where a team this talented gets any better playing such inferior competition. I mean, come on, man. Does Einstein get any smarter taking remedial math? You know, I mean, come on. I mean, but, you know, he sides with Johnson, whatever. You know, if he was struggling, we wouldn't, but he wins, so everything he does is right in Charlie's book. But nobody can deny this was not the toughest stretch non-conference for LSU baseball. Dallas Baptist midweek, and then throughout the weekend, and they kind of take care of business and bang through it pretty easily. Jeff Palermo, who was on the call for all 4 games on this road trip in Texas, will be with us at noon this afternoon. So we'll get a first-hand report from Jeff at noon. Troy Macker letting us know where all the weekend action was, as Jerry Palm in his bracketology is out. It is updated today. And, Alabama, in blowing that game, has lost their number 1 seed. Currently, Houston is up at number 1 in Tennessee. So 2 SEC teams, Auburn and Tennessee, Duke and Houston are the number 1 seeds. So the last 4 in are Xavier is now in with a nice win. Baylor, Boise State, and Arkansas. Arkansas, the last team in, despite getting housed by, 100 in South Carolina. Man, was that rough. Good job by Paul Stone on the podcast. And then the first 4 out, Nebraska, they lose a tough one. Hustled all the way back from 16 down, took the lead, but then a 3-pointer at the buzzer gives Minnesota a road win at Lincoln. So Freddie Hoiberg's team is in tough spot there. North Carolina, Wake Forest, and Ohio State currently on the wrong side of the bubble right now. So, and we'll talk some NBA. Henry, how you doing, brother?
I was told this is going to be Shohei and Luka. I'm leaving. Come on, 100%.
I mean,
LA.
Easy with it. Look, come on, man. Now the Yankees say it's not fair. Now it's not a level playing field.
Poor Steinbrenner. So poor in New York. They were struggling to get a regional cable deal in New York. Please.
The MSG deal is falling apart.
Didn't have a problem giving Garrett Cole $300 million.
Boy, hey, you're not your dad. That's for sure. You're not your dad. So Papa George wouldn't be sitting back and letting the Dodgers just stack the deck the way they are. That's for sure.
I'm still glad Booney put in Nestor Cortez to pitch for my boy Freeman. Grand slam, game over.
It was just a matter of time. It's sure in a short series, it's baseball. Yeah, you turn a loss into a win early on, like in Game 1, where the Yankees first time Nancy Nestor pitched in relief
in 5 weeks.
Yeah.
Not the best spot to put him back in.
Max, the Napster. What the hell was he doing on 11?
Well, he sort of chunks the approach shot, and that's what gets him in trouble. And I got to be honest, the decision to hit out of the water, I didn't have a real problem with it. It's partially out. You just got to make sure you execute and you get it far enough out. And I think he got a little too cute, where he just tried to get it a little close to that pin, which he didn't have a whole lot of green to work with. Got too cute, kind of decelerated, didn't really commit to the shot, and from there it unraveled. But for what it's worth, he finished 4 off the lead, and that was a triple bogey. So, he would have needed a little bit more down the stretch. It certainly let all the air out of his tires to where, he didn't really battle down the stretch. But, yeah, he was in a great position.
You're downplaying that decision. Really?
I don't think the decision was all that bad. I think you would have seen a lot of golfers make the same decision, try to hit out of it. I think it was the execution where he really failed, and he allowed himself to make a big number where you really, in that situation, should just be trying to save bogey or double.
Max, it was not just in the water. It was on the incline. It was he went straight up and down and went back to the same spot. And then he just went basically just enough to the rough. And then he couldn't get up and down there. His approach was there. We can't say, he just finished 4, so that triple didn't matter anyway. Oh, this changed the complexion of the match. Really, you're downplaying that decision. You're the only one out here saying that.
It was just, I know a lot of other golfers in that position, pros, that would have played that shot.
That doesn't make it the right decision.
That's why golf is a 4-letter word, guys. It's hard.
It is hard.
Come on.
He would have to go all the way back to basically where he hit the first shot if he decided not to play that shot. So he would have made probably a double bogey if he chooses the other route. I don't think the decision was that poor.
If slushy mud is getting in between your toes, it's probably not a real good decision.
Jimmy, maybe this is on me because I've played that shot before.
And how'd you do?
I did okay. It's not the worst. Now, it's a different level, right? And there was
the same shot.
Similar, yes, where the ball is about halfway in the water. Typically, the rule is if
type of incline,
if about half of the ball is out of the water, you actually just play it like a bunker shot. Really, it plays very much like a bunker shot. You don't hit,
but you're going
the
through the water first. You're not going through the sand.
Again, you need some aggression, and he tended to back off. He got a little too cute. He didn't pull off the play. I've heard a couple people as well that agree with me that just don't think the decision was that poor. But yes, it was certainly frustrating in the moment. I'm thinking, what is he doing? But looking back, I think, would he have been there in the mix? Probably, just because he did kind of let off at the end when he was just demoralized. But
this was down in Palm Beaches,
former
Florida.
Honda. It's now the Cognizant Classic.
Right down the street from Jupiter. So
the slums.
Oh yeah, really. Berger in his home course. My goodness. This guy, he can't win either.
He was terrible in the back nine all week.
How about this guy who wins? What's his story?
So Joe Highsmith, he's a pretty good player. This is only his somewhere in the 30s in terms of tour starts for him. So he's still pretty young on tour.
What was he pre-tournament?
He was about 120 to 1.
He was 110 to 1 before yesterday, Max.
Well, what's
he was
crazy,
only 120 to 1 for the tournament?
Yeah, he wasn't. He's a ways off, right? He shot 2 back-to-back 64, 7 under, 7 under. He made the cut on the number. He was
I know,
1,001.
Like a 5-6 foot.
He was 1,001 after round 2. I mean, he had basically no chance at that point, and puts up back-to-back 64. It's the best round
So
of the day.
he's the last one in.
Both days. He's the last one in. He needs to make a 4-foot putt on 18 on Friday just to make the weekend.
Right, I get that.
But he's traditionally not a good putter. Like, that is his weakness. He does not putt well, especially on Bermuda. And for whatever reason, on Saturday and Sunday, he was putting the lights out. I mean, he clinched it basically on 16, or maybe it was 17, where he makes a long putt, 30-footer for birdie. He's a good ball striker, left-handed. I've played him in the past, but I certainly didn't expect him to putt that way and be able to win this tournament.
All right, so the LSU baseball team, the toughest stretch of non-conference, but just how tough is it? How many of these 4 teams are going to be in the field of 64?
K-State was in a super, weren't they? And Dallas Baptist.
Last year?
Yeah. Dallas Baptist is always good.
They're ranked.
Yeah.
I think you'll see probably 3 make
Sam
the
Houston's terrible. They were 2-10.
3 of those 4, you think?
You could see 2, but I think the other 3 outside of Sam Houston, I didn't watch much of the game yesterday.
4 of them combined historically have 2 trips to Omaha, period. And that is the 2 that Van Horn took the Nebraska Cornhuskers to. He's now at Arkansas. So, I mean, it's not exactly the traditional. Dallas Baptist is sort of a nouveau riche of college baseball. They've been to a couple of supers, but they haven't been to Omaha. I forgot Kansas State went to the super last year. They're not ranked. So the one ranked team of the 4 right now going in was Dallas Baptist.
DBU, yeah, on Wednesday, and it was almost a home game for them. Obviously, it wasn't in their home park, but it was right there in Dallas. They didn't have to travel very much.
I think they found their leadoff hitter, Derek Curiel, in the 1 spot this weekend. I mean, look.
It's the highest on base percentage in the country, Max. Is that right?
I believe that's right. Looking at him statistically now, he's up to 576 on base percentage. That's pretty good. He's been good all year.
And Cruz is the wrong comparison because he doesn't have the pop of Dylan Cruz, nor does he. I don't think he has. Cruz is a 5-tool kid, although the arm with Cruz in center field was a little.
Cruz, second choice for Rookie of the Season. He'll be in the opening day lineup.
Who's the
He's
first?
Supposed to be a regular.
Roki Sasaki.
Oh, okay.
The Los Angeles Dodgers.
How old is he?
23.
23?
Yeah.
So, really, the Dodgers have a good player on their team?
No, we found a diamond in the rough. nobody knew who he was. We're good at that. Max Muncy, Chris Taylor.
Oh, so the international scouting budget is a little bit stronger than the Pirates?
A little bit.
Yeah.
Now, Roki could have waited a year and got a Yoshinobu Yamamoto deal. He did not. So,
well, if the Dodgers could win throwing that Game 4 Padres series pitching
good.
staff, you can win with that. You can. I mean, it's just you should have gotten the Dodgers last year while you could have, before they were basically had their minor league pitching staff out there as a rotation. Because now it's going to take multiple injuries within the lineup or whatever. It's going to be that much tougher. I mean, there's an unlevel playing field in Major League Baseball. So we'll get to that later, Henry. Okay, all right, MLB. But the LSU men's basketball team went to the hump, got smoked. Here's another one for you. 1-1. State shooting and they miss. Nobody moves for LSU. See, nobody saw this. I'm bringing this to your attention because nobody watches them anymore because they're no good, and they're that's how bad your second profit-producing sport on campus is as far as valued. And so, in the interest level, it's apathy. And 1 year more is going to turn it around? No.
Well, hold on a second.
No.
What is Missouri and Vandy doing in the SEC this year? Those are both 1 year turnarounds. It can be done.
I have enough of a sample size.
I'm just saying. I mean, look, with the transfer portal being what it is, it can be done. We're seeing it done all over the place.
Well, but nobody moved for the rebound. The ball bounced on the floor. The state picked it up and laid it in.
Yeah, that's not good.
Sixth grade girls basketball type of move, really? Laps.
Even Nathan Hayes on my team.
What women's basketball team? They did it. They faked inbound, putting team on one to start the second half. I think it was
missed
NC
that
State,
one.
maybe in Duke or something. Yeah. They put everybody on the opposite, and it broke a girl to the goal that they're
That
shooting.
game that went to like double overtime. NC State
No,
did?
that wasn't it.
Okay.
It was just another one. Okay. But I mean, it just really. I did go to campus to watch another LSU sport, and I saw where when you hustle as a coach, and it's not administrative given to you. That's right. The LSU women's tennis team ain't never done crap. They went to Canada and got a couple of freshmen, and then they went to Belgium and got another one. They smoked Kentucky, top 60 team, no big deal. They're right on the fringe, top 10. And then number 7, Tennessee, came to town. So you play five doubles courts for 1 point, and then the 6 singles, and you play best 4 of 7. After Tennessee fought off a couple of match points, they had their own match points, and it was a hell of a match. LSU finally wins the singles point. The next 3, the doubles point. The next 3 singles matches that came off, that finished first, were all LSU. LSU beat the number 7 team in the country 4-0 yesterday because the coaches got off their ass, hustled on their own, some private NIL contributions to try and be competitive. McMahon's going to start in year 4 and didn't try in year 3. Henry? No, you don't. It's just I've seen enough.
That's fair.
It's I mean, you just take 3 years off. We're going to start in year 4. Teams that never done crap, that have no support, they have no budget, are doing it.
Okay, but is it fair to say, if the average starting 5 in the SEC costs between $4.5 and $5 million, and that's what it is, and LSU had $2 million-ish this season, is it fair to say, with the average, let's see what he could do? And I'm just asking.
That's what they're giving him next year. But this is your budget is 2 parts. It's part administrative. It's part you got to hustle.
That's fair.
And if you don't hustle, you bet to hire somebody that's going to hustle the community. Will Wade, by comparison, and I'm not preaching for Will Wade to come back. I don't think it's a possibility. Without 1 penny from the administration, would have $5 million NIL budget here.
Yep.
Next year, with doubling the administration, doubling what they have this year, is going to be about 3.5.
Max,
some have it, some don't,
yep.
Some try, some don't. But why am I going to hustle when I got a 7-year deal? You paying me, Jack.
Will Wade at Miami next year?
I was trying to figure out where his landing spot would be.
Would be a pretty good one.
Possible.
Good league.
He's going to get a job.
I thought it would be Texas. I think that guy's got another year.
No, Texas is not. Texas is not going to. The stain is still a little fresh for Texas. The stain. It's not going to happen, Henry.
CME.
It's not going to happen.
They got to.
That's it. Not at Texas.
You
want to bet on it?
Well,
name your price.
No. Look,
name your price.
They're not moving on the guy, but
I'll parlay it with this over in the college baseball. Come on.
The only reason he's there is because they wrongfully fired Chris Beard.
No, they're firing him if he doesn't get to the tournament. No, well, they're not. But they're not bringing in Will Wade. It's not.
It's about winning.
Oh, I understand that, but some are a little too proud. Some are. We're into morality. We're not into winning. The LSU basketball team, they're not into winning.
How about Indiana?
Talk
about some swing and misses lately.
Indiana's not going to hire Will Wade as well. They're still. I think they got. They're trying to decide on Chris Beard. So we will see. We're live here at the DraftKings Sportsbook. Always a good time over here. I was over here yesterday watching all the game. The guys over here do a wonderful job. Tommy and Cliff and all the great staff over here. Scotty, they do a great job over here. My buddy Andres working the teller as well. Great staff. The bartender's always nice. Always a good time. Getting into it, you never have to stress about they're going to get every game on that's possibly out there. We're here at the DraftKings Sportsbook on this Monday edition of Live at Lunch, live on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Live at Lunch with Ott and Hanny from the Queen Casino on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
All right, so some key games in the SEC on Saturday. Before we get to that, well, what about Bill Self? Is it Is it going to be? I mean, can this thing kind of splinter? I mean, the Kansas. Here's the awkwardness. Kansas loses to Texas Tech. Otterlocks. Matt did a good job looking at what we put out. The 4 picks on Friday from Ruffino's 4-0. So he used one was Friday night with Northwestern. They went comfortably, and then at the other 3 were all in the SEC, and they win. Well, one was Texas Tech. Texas Tech plus the points. They got their top 2 scorers back, so they're at full strength. They didn't have these guys. Second and third lead scorer against Houston. They lost a tough game, but they go and beat Kansas and kind of win comfortably. So that was a nice win. Kansas puts out a release. We didn't play our best. Came up a little bit short. Like what we know that.
Yeah,
we see the final score. I mean, really, you have to put out a release now.
So he got there in 2003. So it's 20 plus years. That's longer than I thought. That's a long stretch, Jimmy.
Yes.
For anybody to have success. I mean, look, Calipari felt the hangman's noose coming and got out of Lexington.
But Self won 2 championships there.
Yeah.
And it's 2.
And it is what, top 5 program, top 5 blue blood?
Oh, without a doubt.
Kansas,
without a
Kentucky,
doubt. Kansas might be.
UCLA, old school.
No. UCLA has been a long time.
I'm just saying, if you took the.
No. If you want to go historian, but as far as the resource to win, UCLA's not close. UCLA, Cronin had to lobby, had to push for them to quit flying commercial.
Yeah.
I mean,
cheap.
Extremely cheap. So their NIL budget is going to be limited, okay? And he's crying every press conference about the travel now that he's got stuck with midstream. I mean, when he took the job, it wasn't like this. But no, Kansas is arguably the number 1 job in the country.
You think so still?
Yes. They are giving you everything you want. You are the number 1 sport on your campus, minus the only one that Kentucky has. Kentucky has more overall athletic budget because they're in the SEC.
So you don't think
But Kentucky can be a little bit tougher. I think they're a little bit more supportive and less pressure at Kansas.
I guess the fact that they're not geolocated, let's just put it that way, but you only need 5. So
I mean, that's it. Well, it doesn't matter.
It did matter to Nebraska football, and steroids got outlawed.
Well, the basketball recruits are much more willing to travel than football quarterbacks go all over the country. Basketball players always they go and play high school out in away from home. So that's never been a real problem. It's not like they're looking for the quality of living is just fine as your basketball player. They're not there exactly going to class when they're playing Tuesday, and in California or something. So, but Kentucky, Kansas, Duke, maybe North Carolina is way up there. It's a top 5, no doubt. It just seems a little awkward, and this is part of preseason expectations get coaches fired. And I'm not saying that Self is going to be fired, but he looks like he's agitated. His team his team doesn't like it. Anyway, they get beat handily. In the SEC, the bubble matchup, Georgia gets their road win, and they blast Texas. I mean, gate to wire, double digits, win by 16. I mean, Rodney Terry, looks up. Now they're in Jerry Palm's bracketology right now. That's the biggest win, one of the biggest winners on Saturday, Max.
Yeah, no, I didn't expect anything like that. One thing about Bill Self, though, Jimmy, we saw this a little bit with Calipari, where he kind of put his name out there on other places before he finally went to Arkansas. Bill Self, there was a little bit of talk, because he met with Oklahoma State. He has a relationship with the AD there that it had already sort of happened where he at least looked elsewhere. He denied that he ever really considered it, that he was just there to kind of talk to the AD about what they should look for in a head coach. But I think that's a little bit a part of this is that he was already in Kansas's eyes, at least putting his name out there with any other school to begin with. I mean, he won a title 3 years ago, but their conference schedule hasn't been as effective lately.
And it's just the way they've lost, too. I've watched some of those games. They're not competitive. They don't play good basketball, and it's not anywhere near the Kansas standard. So
they were preseason number one. They had that was everybody's number one, if not really close. They had a good month of November, and it has hit the skids since. Elsewhere in the SEC, Alabama in position to get a nice win at Thompson Bowling in Knoxville, but they can't close it out. They're up 4. They give up. They foul a shooter for an end one. They don't box out on two of my biggest pet peeves in college basketball. Don't box out on missed free throws and can't get an inbounds play in because nobody sets a pick.
A lot of times out of a timeout, they can't get an inbound play in. That's what
nobody sets picks, Henry.
Yeah,
is it illegal?
No, it's just because you can push off to show for the ball. But I'm with you. I think
I'm passing the ball to a teammate. In football, it's illegal to set a pick for a reason because it's an unfair advantage.
You like that?
And I'm passing it in to a teammate. I'm setting some picks, fake picks coming back. I'm doing some sort of just running to the ball. It's just like it happens. So it was like 3 times when late in games where the defense is desperate, where they pressure inbounds, teams can't get it in. So
and Bama out-rebounded them by 11 in that game. So, I mean, they had him on the glass. It's just a case of, in this case, at the very end, defense, speed offense.
So, easily cover. So, Bama does cover with the 3, so you don't have to sweat overtime. But do you gain more respect for Alabama in a loss or not so much?
I give Tennessee a little credit. I mean, score 79 points. Granted, it's Alabama, but, you saw a little bit of life for them. Because which one of these teams is a championship contender to you, Jimmy? Are either of them contenders?
Alabama, much more than Tennessee, yeah.
But Tennessee won this game. I think that's to me where I take a little something for Tennessee.
This hurts. This makes me reconsider a little bit more. I'm never giving Tennessee the credit because I can't trust Ziegler. And, I mean, I've seen him, so I thought he might have, because of his injury, he sat out that game, he sat out the next game, and then he came back and he was making better decisions. But then I see him, he's unaware constantly of the shot clock that's going down, his decision maker for the dominant, the guy that's the ball handler, it's just not setting up enough for his teammates. So they are a number 1 seed as of now, but, hey, I'll take Alabama plus the points. They win. Yeah, they cover easily in that game.
Tennessee guards and defense does travel. I'll just say that.
It does.
Come March, I love a team that could get into you.
They're one guy who can create off the bounce is their point guard, and he is.
I don't trust him either. You're right.
He's full of bad decisions.
Just awareness. He's too old to be making these bad shots.
He's got too many. He's a 4-year starter.
And here's the other thing. He's not an NBA player.
No.
So it's that's a little frustrating.
Ole Miss in Oklahoma. Oklahoma could have won. This would have been a nice one to get them off of the bubble, but they're still in as an 11 seed right now. But they stormed back. Ole Miss was up by about 8-10 late. They stormed back, and then Ole Miss, they took the lead actually with less than a minute to go. But Ole Miss gets an N1 situation, and they win 87-84 on that one. And then Kentucky was not competitive at all. At full strength, Butler was back for Kentucky, second game back, but Auburn just spanked Kentucky at Rupp, where that place has been very, very tough to play on the road. And on the plane ride back, they show the video of the team getting in, saying Alabama lost on the 25-footer by Tennessee at the buzzer. They said, we ain't sharing with no one. We ain't sharing. So this team has that maturity and has that killer instinct because they could have played with their food a little bit in this game with a cushion. No, they're delivering the knockout blow, as soon as they have the opportunity.
That would shock me. I didn't expect that result. Kentucky turned the ball over way, way too much at home.
You think is Pope going to make it?
Oh, yeah.
You think so?
They're fine.
I think so.
No, really? He's like a 3 seed, Henry.
I know. I'm just like
Yes, he is going to be. They have to have a little bit more emphasis on the defensive end. His offense is elite. His offensive sets, they really move the ball. They've got to get better on the defensive side of the floor.
And Calhoun really struggled his last 2-3 years scoring the ball, so that's
first year. He came in kind of late. First year, he's got a team that's a 3 seed. He just fine. In Lexington.
So, Jimmy, Auburn doesn't want to share a title, but how about the women's side of things? A coin flip at halftime of the LSU game to determine who gets the 1 seed.
We found something Sankey can do. He flips the coin.
He said he was practicing for hours. Good for him. It was a flawless flip.
We'll take a time out. Don't forget our friends at Legacy Title, Chad Reynolds, and Legacy Title for all of your real estate closings. 296-0060. Full service title company servicing all of South Louisiana. Fast, friendly, professional service is what you get when you dial 296-0060. Ashley Donald, Mariana Haynes, Adrian Galata, Michael Platt, buying, building, or financing. Nobody chooses but you. Choose Chad Reynolds in Legacy Title. Troy Macker for Bet Rivers, recapping the weekend from a handicapping perspective, from a sportsbook perspective. When we return, live at lunch, live from DraftKings Sportsbook at the Queen Casino, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Sammy's Grill on Highland Road since 1988, a hometown favorite for tailgating and watching LSU games in a casual atmosphere with the friendliest service. Right now, we're boiling crawfish 7 days a week, Monday through Friday. First batch comes out at 5 p.m., weekends at noon. Sammy serves a wide mix of authentic Louisiana food prepared to order with the best ingredients available. Fresh Louisiana seafood, Cajun favorites, burgers, and po' boys, all built from scratch. Our kids' menu and popular appetizers are sure to please the pickiest of eaters. Sammy's Grill on Highland Road, near Starring since 1988.
Jimmy, Charlie, and Troy. 3 best buddies sitting around talking sports bets. Let's welcome in Troy Macker from Bet Rivers.
Troy, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me on again, Jimmy.
Yeah, man. Lots of college basketball over the weekend. What caught your attention?
Obviously the finish to Tennessee-Alabama was incredible. Alabama looked like, they might hold on for a 4-point lead. The last minute of that game was wild. Elsewhere we had some other good results. The Illinois-Michigan game yesterday, that resulted in a big win for the sports book. I think a lot of people were on Michigan. Illinois has been scuffling, struggling, but, as we've discussed and I've mentioned elsewhere, Illinois has just an incredibly high ceiling, even though they've dealt with injuries and players hitting the wall and illnesses and really, look terrible against Duke. But at their ceiling, they're still one of the most talented teams in the country. Michigan, I think, has outperformed their expectations. First year with the new coach, he's brought in a lot of players from his old team. They've been very good, but I've been harder on Michigan than most, and I figure this is a place where Illinois, could hang with them. I did not see Illinois winning by 20 or whatever they won by, but I think Illinois and Michigan are far closer together in that maybe the top of that second tier in the Big Ten. But the bettors did not see it that way. They were heavy on Michigan, and that was not the result they were looking for.
It looked like some sharp action, though, on Illinois. One, the modest line. I mean, think about it, legitimate home court advantage. I think Michigan was undefeated at that point, Max. I mean, so 5, we give about 5 for a real good, strong home court advantage. It was 3.5, 4. I saw some movement go down to 3 yesterday, Troy. So it looked like this might have been, pros versus Joes in this one. So, yeah, in Illinois especially, your recency bias where you get beat by 40, against Duke on a neutral. And I know Duke's beating a lot of people, but, I mean, yeah, we could get beat by 20 at home. So Michigan has had a lot of close games, a lot of close wins at home along the way, but, man, Illinois smoked them yesterday.
Yeah, and, the interesting thing about this weekend, obviously, as you expect, football's over. March is happening now, March Madness in a few weeks. College basketball was our most wagered on sport by a good margin. More money and more tickets than NBA. Obviously, the slate on Saturday was very big. The book took a pretty significant loss overall, mid-6 figures. And typically, with even allowing prop bets in certain states and in-game wagering, with doesn't always work, especially college basketball, because a 12 to 15-point lead can change like that. We took a pretty significant loss, and one of the games that we took a big loss, the sportsbook did, which I was a little surprised on, is Arizona versus Iowa State. And I'm not sure if this was because of live bets So this game, I really couldn't bet on because I think Arizona's very good. I think Iowa State's very good, but Arizona has been herky-jerky, especially at home. So I was confused as to why there was such lopsided betting in a game that I thought would be very, very even.
Yeah, it surprises me that's not one I would have picked. Michigan State yesterday. I mean, Michigan State, winning, beating ranked teams 4 games in a row, and they have a modest number under 5 at home against Wisconsin. Who do we think's better? Michigan State's been public. They're cashing tickets left and right, so I figured that would be a big one. But, the 2 teams that got their leading scorers back, and Iowa State got their top 2 leading scorers back, 31 a game, back for the Arizona game. And then it was Texas Tech getting 30 points a game back collectively for their second and third leading scorer, going to Kansas and took care of business as well. So, they had to bet Michigan State a lot yesterday, huh, Troy?
Yeah, but we actually took a win on that game, which is surprising. Michigan's a big market for us. Michigan State, obviously, last week with the big buzzer beater. This is Tom Izzo's time to shine. What does John Rothstein say? January, February, Izzo, April. I was a little bit surprised. Wisconsin's been very good this year. They've been a very entertaining team to watch, which is not something you always say about Wisconsin. I figured Michigan State is rounding into heavy public form, and yet the sportsbook took, a low six-figure win on that game.
They can win it all, can't they? Michigan State? Defend well, decent guard play.
I don't know if they have the talent to do it. They would have to catch a little break in the draw, I mean, they bring that defense. They are a heck of a defensive team. I get it, but I'm just wondering, man, how good some of these teams in the Big Ten are. I know they've got the second strongest conference RPI and things like that, but I just wonder. I mean, they're very consistent. They're on a roll. It's another quality win, but in Michigan State, I don't think they match up talent-wise with like the top 4 or 5 teams in the SEC. Just my opinion. Troy?
I think they can make the Final Four. I think they can get there, but I do think there are teams that are more explosive than them, that have better talent than them, have better size than them. Even though I was about to say athleticism, but they have some really good athleticism. Cohen Carr is incredibly athletic, and then Jace Richardson, who's the son of Jason Richardson, who's one of the most athletic players I've ever seen. I think they can make it to the Final Four off their total team play. But I wonder if they have the three-point shooting, and I wonder if they have the output to get into a track meet and keep up.
I think they're talented enough. They shoot 29% from 3. That's a problem.
Correct.
That's part of their talent. His shooting is a little bit.
They're athletic. Like they can match up with you physically. And I don't know a whole lot of teams that they can with like the Auburns and Dukes.
Rarely do they have good shooting. Now they finished strong at Michigan. Hitting a bunch of threes down the stretch to decide that game, but they're not a great shooting team. Henry, here's your daughter's new team, 10 minutes from her house now, UC San Diego. Number 1 covering team in the country. So they really take their foot off the gas. Now, 26.5, the line closed on Saturday. Oh, they won by 45. So, I mean, the Tritons, has the betting public caught up, Troy, with the Tritons and starting to follow them?
A little bit, but not nearly as much as they should. I have been all over this team from the jump. This is I think this is the first year that they're eligible to make the NCAA tournament. Relatively new to D1. They're amazing. I love their colors. I love their mascot. I love their way they play. I love that they cover with an incredible clip. Put them in the tournament. This is such a fun team. I wish the NCAA tournament committee had an outlook that was more like the college football playoff committee, which is like, let's put the teams that we think will make the best tournament as opposed to the teams that have the best metrics, where I think probably the college football playoff committee needs to go the way that the NCAA tournament committee goes and put in teams with the better metrics. You get, some more teams from power conferences, say the SEC. But UC San Diego is such a fun team to watch play. You got to stay up a little late to watch them, but the potential for them versus UC Irvine in the championship game, the Big West tournament on late Saturday night, right before Selection Sunday, is salivating. They should be a tournament team. They only have 2 non-conference losses. But the problem with some of these low majors is that they're unless the bubble just bursts for every team in, the ACC, the Big East, the Big 12. We know every team in the SEC is in and around the tournament deserves to be there. But they really don't have a lot of out cards to San Diego, even though I think they would be an amazing team to get into the tournament and play. People would love watching them play. But the public just isn't betting on their games enough. I think because, they're playing late, even though we do see decent handles on late-night games, but it hasn't really trickled down to the Big West. We're seeing more betting on Irvine, which is, 25-5, 15-3, compared to UC San Diego, 26-4, 16-2.
Your number one covering team covers again over the weekend. Another one mid-major team that we're very and we'll have to see. Their NET is going to give them a chance to get in that large bid should they trip up in their conference tournament. We don't know. Another team that's NET is going to give them a chance, and I don't know if they're as good as they were last year though. And they're winning, but they are not covering. And, Max, you and I talked about this off the air a couple of weeks ago. Here's another one. McNeese on the road laying 9.5 against Lamar. They win by 2. They're winning games, but they are not covering, not just hammering people like they did a year ago.
Can I tell you something interesting about that game? The McNeese-Lamar game, McNeese won 68-66. That was the largest percentage of hold for the public in any game in college basketball. We took, it wasn't a hugely wagered on game as you'd expect. Lamar's 18 and 12. McNeese is very good, certainly not as good as they were last year. But people, there wasn't a great number to take McNeese on the money line. But, like you said, Lamar was double-digit underdogs, and people hammered Lamar to cover. So that was actually a very good win for the public in college basketball, was Lamar to cover at home against the McNeese State team that is still winning, but like you said, is nowhere nearly as good as they were last year.
Last year, they were fortunate to get a win in Beaumont as well. Beaumont Lake Charles only an hour away, so got a little bit of rivalry right there. The podcast, Paul Stone and I, collective 5-1.
5-1.
5-1. And how'd the six-pack do, huh? The money line parlay, Max.
Cha-ching! Plus 185. Yes, sir.
There we go. So, Paul Stone and I podcast now every Tuesdays and Thursday night, Friday morning kind of deal?
Yeah, Thursday night. It'll come out for the weekend slate. So,
all right. Follow Troy on Twitter at Troy Macker. That's it. Troy, anything tonight before we let you go real quick?
I think I've been staying away from Kansas games because I'm a longtime supporter of them on the national scale. I just think they're such a sturdy team, but they've been so herky-jerky this year. Houston is very good. I am all over Houston tonight to cover. I think even though Kansas has bounced back from recent struggles. And one other note I'll say, just in general about a team I cannot bet on their games because even when they're underdogs, it's Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt is good. They're probably going to be a 9 seed in the NCAA tournament, and if they win their first round game, they're going to play a 1 seed, and they're going to give that team 6. Vanderbilt beat another ranked team. They have 6 wins against ranked teams. They're only 8-8 in the SEC, but they have 5 SEC wins against ranked teams. Certainly, you play more than any other conference. Vanderbilt is really good. They don't shoot the 3-ball very well, but they force turnovers. This is a team, if you're earmarking teams that could make a little bit of a run and surprise people in the NCAA tournament, I think it's Vanderbilt.
Back-to-back threes to send it into overtime, so got a little lucky, but they took care of business in the overtime period against Missouri and win a key game. They're safely in right now. Great job by the first-year coach out of James Madison. Thank you, Troy. We appreciate it. We'll talk to you Thursday.
Thanks, guys. Have a good one.
All right, we'll take a time out live at the DraftKings Sportsbook, live at lunch, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Live at lunch with Ott and Hanny from the Queen Casino on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Easy to get over here now, but it wasn't that way on with Spanish Town on Saturday. How about 250,000 people? 250,000 people chasing around a pink beans, Max?
That's a lot of pink.
That's
I
a
wonder
lot
if you
of
could
pink.
have seen that from Earth.
That's all we need is more litter on the ground. There you go. All right. I'm a big Mardi Gras guy. Anyway, hey, Jeff Palermo's with us. He was play-by-play for all 4 games in the Texas swing for LSU baseball. He'll have a complete report when we come back. Live at lunch, live here from the DraftKings Sportsbook at the Queen Casino, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
at Lunch with Ott and Hanny from the Queen Casino on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Never a problem getting the games on over here at the Queen Casino. Again, great staff over here. If it's on, they're going to get it on over here at the Queen Casino. So no wrestling with the staff to try and get all the games on. If it's on, they'll have it on over here. Again, LSU baseball with the teeth of their pretty damn light non-conference schedule. But if there was a little bit of a teeth, a little bit of a tough spot, it was this week at Dallas Baptist, and then also in Frisco against Nebraska, Kansas State, and Sam Houston State. Jeff Palermo subbing in on the play-by-play, doing a very nice job for the Texas Wing, and all 4 games joins us right now. Jeff, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing well, Jimmy. How about yourself?
Doing great, man. Let's get it. Just overall. I mean, the big picture. What's the biggest takeaways from this 4-0 Texas sweep?
Well, I think my biggest takeaway is that this is a really good team, and I know they had not been tested until really that Wednesday night game against Dallas Baptist. But even in that game, that's a pretty good Dallas Baptist team that was going to throw some good arms at them out of the bullpen, and has a very veteran lineup, and especially the way Connor Ware threw in those first 4 innings, hitless innings, was very impressive. And then I think really I know there's a lot of focus maybe on the walks that you saw on Friday, and then in particular Sunday, and then some of the relievers struggling. I think that's to be expected. I mean, these are kids who are still 18, 19 years old, 20 years old in some cases, and they're still trying to harness their control and so forth, and still trying to become pitchers at this level, and you're going to have some outings like that. But the way I look at it right now, Jimmy, I really feel like there were so many years where there was a struggle for LSU to have a Sunday starter or find a third starter, and the way I look at it, I mean, there's 5 or 6 guys that can start on the weekend, including the 3 guys. Now, they might not have that elite pitcher. Like there's no Paul Skeens, there's no Aaron Nola. There may not, and maybe there might not even be necessarily like an Alex Lang or someone like that, a first-round pick. Maybe Cade Anderson's that guy before it's all said and done, and potentially Chase Shores, but they're not there yet. So that they lack that, but they got a lot of guys that they can throw. Not only I mentioned Shores, Ianson, Anderson, Connor Ware, and then Zach Cowan and William Schmidt would be guys that can start on the weekends for you as well. But they fit nicely for you, especially Zach Cowan coming out of the bullpen, a guy that can eat up a lot of innings. And then offensively, Jimmy, I just think it's a lineup that can be relentless. Those 3 guys at the top right now, the way it is, Derek Curiel, Jared Jones, and Daniel Dickinson, that's really tough for a pitcher to get through. Those guys, Curiel gets on base a lot, and then you have Jones, who's the home run hitting guy, and then Dickinson can handle the bat very well. And then when you start moving through the order, you got to go through Milam and Jake Brown, and then Josh Pearson's a veteran hitter, and then even all the way down to the number 9 spot, and Chris Stansfield. He can just wreak havoc, get on base, make things happen. He strikes out a little bit, but he's still a guy that's probably, as far as the number 9 hitter, he's about as good as any other team in the country has. So I just think that the depth was on full display during these 4 games.
Hey, Jeff, Max here. The starters, maybe could have asked a little bit more of them. Jay Johnson, maybe he would have wanted things to be a little bit easier for them. But do you think overall this was actually a good thing that you had some real close reps, some competitive reps for the bullpen arms, and then some real big at-bats for some younger guys who, there was pressure that the game wasn't over. The game was never out of reach. It looked like maybe it was going to be that way against Sam Houston, but the Bearcats fought back as well.
I think it was the perfect time for this team to be tested. Purdue, Fort Wayne, Omaha, Nichols, none of those teams really tested them, and I know they lost to Omaha in that game, but they really needed to face some stiff competition. They needed to get a feel of what it's like to potentially play in a regional. And I would say in those, especially in the games against Kansas State on Friday and Nebraska in particular, I mean, there was 11,000 fans there at Rough Riders Field on Saturday night. That was a regional atmosphere. Now, or even a super regional in a way. Now, I don't know if Kansas State or Nebraska are super regional teams. Those teams certainly probably good enough to play in a regional, and in particular Dallas Baptist as well on Wednesday. They just needed to get tested. You needed to see where they were at, and I think for the most part they passed it. And in particular, just seeing Carriel and Dickinson, the way those two guys play. I mean, it just nothing phases those two guys. Now, there's going to be a part in the SEC season that those guys are going to struggle, and you're going to have to maybe adjust some things in the lineup, and it's just going to happen. A few of those guys are going to hit a lull. Milam hit a lull last year during a couple-week portion, and then you'll have to make some adjustments to the lineup. But those guys, to me, have shown that even though they have yet to go up against Texas A&M, Tennessee, and Arkansas or anything like that yet, I think they have the physical ability to be stars in the SEC, and I also think they have the right mindset. And again, just nothing really seems to phase those guys. And I thought it was good on Sunday for them to get tested. You kind of went into that game against Sam Houston, who had only won 2 games, and you're thinking, well, this is going to be a cakewalk. And it was good to see a guy like DJ Primo bounce back after a tough outing on Friday, and Connor Bench to kind of just fight through it after pitching on Friday and then coming back on Sunday and not having his best stuff, but still getting through it and not giving up any runs when Sam Houston was starting to make a charge on LSU. I think those were positive things. Jaden Newt coming in the 9th inning and getting the save. I think all that is just something for a lot of these guys to build up.
Hey, Jay, hey, it's Henry Hayes. I snuck my way onto the show, Jeff.
Hey, Henry,
somehow. Yeah, it's that Lundy Gras deal. Once a year they have me. You and Frank Esmail were great to listen to. The weather was great in Baton Rouge, so a lot of guys like me were out weeding, listening to you guys. Meant 2 things. 3 things. Number 1, it looks like Carriel's going to stay put in that leadoff spot.
Yeah.
I mean, like you said, the kid gets on base. He is. I think I'll stop short of the Cruz comparison just because we don't see the pop in the bat. But, boy, you talk about an 18-year-old who has a really good trained eye on the strike zone. That's number 1. Number 2, if Bear Jones doesn't lead the nation in walks this year, something's going to be wrong. And number 3, to me, it looks like maybe gently Luis Hernandez is starting to put his foot down and saying, look, I'm this team's starting catcher. The 3 hits on Sunday certainly help. He's hitting – even his outs are loud outs. What do you think about those 3?
Yeah, I think Carriel right now is your leadoff hitter. Again, until he slumps a little bit, and then you make an adjustment. But he's getting on base, and as far as I think that when you compare him to Dylan Cruz, it's just that he's ready to play. Like when you watch Dylan Cruz his freshman season, you say, yep, that guy's ready. He's good to go. You just didn't have to worry about it. And I think Carriel's in that same spot. Great hitter to the opposite field, especially poking it out to left field with some authority. He's probably not going to hit as many home runs as Cruz, but he's going to give you exactly what you want, and you're going to look and say, he doesn't look like a freshman. Jared Jones is kind of getting the Barry Bonds treatment, right? I mean, he's either walking, or maybe if you make a couple good pitches to him, he'll swing and miss and you'll strike him out, or he's going to hit the ball hard somewhere. I mean, he was even on some of his outs. I mean, the exit velocity on them was over 100 miles an hour. And he's got 2 home runs now, but he's got a bunch of doubles, which tells you that he's still seeing the ball. And then I think eventually, especially when the weather warms up and pitchers make even more mistakes because they're starting to tire a little bit, I think he'll start driving the ball out of the ballpark even more. But then you have Daniel Dickinson right behind him, who's 6 RBIs on the game on Friday. I mean, so you were wondering if there was going to be enough protection behind him. And I think there certainly is. And then as far as the catcher position, I think LSU has had better defensive catchers. Alex Milazzo, for instance, was a better defensive catcher than what LSU has on its roster right now, and some other guys that the Tigers have had. But Luis Hernandez is going to get an opportunity to kind of develop into that. He threw out a base runner yesterday. I would like to see him in SEC play when teams got a lot more speed and they can really maybe test LSU defensively behind the plate. I think that is certainly something to watch because at all the other positions, left field, center field, right field, even when Jake Brown's out there, first, second, and short, those are terrific defensive players. Third base, Braswell's okay. Jared Jones is above average first baseman, I would say. And then catcher, to me, it's still a question mark defensively. And I think that's a storyline to watch to see how much Luis Hernandez can progress. But he started most of the games in Texas. I think he's going to probably start 75% of the time, and hopefully the bat comes around a little bit. Yesterday was good to see him get 3 hits. He really only hit one of them hard, but when he got that first one to fall for him, or it kind of squeaked past the shortstop on the first one, and he got a hit, I think that loosened him up a little bit, and he had much better at-bats the rest of the game. So that was certainly a good sign.
Jeff, you talked defensively, behind the plate. There's still some question marks there, but I certainly came into the season having questions about the middle infield defensively. Yeah. You move Milam over to short, Braswell to third. We'll see what Dickinson can do. But right away, I thought they passed with flying colors. Obviously, you have the sort of top 10 play, if you will, with the toss from Dickinson, shovels it over to Milam, who barehands it and makes the out. But you had Milam with a big assist to save that game against Kansas State, relaying it from Pearson in the bottom of the ninth. Overall, can you ask for much more from this middle infield? Because I was concerned there, but you had Milam charging in on some choppers as well. I thought they passed with flying colors.
Milam is so smooth out there at shortstop. That's what I saw. That was the other thing, prior to this trip to Texas, because of the teams that LSU faced and there were a lot of strikeouts, you never really saw this defense get tested. And you got to see that starting right away on Wednesday, where LSU defensively guys started hitting the ball in the holes or making the outfielders run a little bit, so forth, and the defense had to make some plays. Milam is very smooth out there. There were times last year when Braswell was at shortstop and the ball was hit to him, and you're starting to squint. You're like, uh-oh, what's going to happen here? When the ball is hit to Milam, he's so smooth out there, and you saw how terrific he was at second base. Concerns about the arm strength. Look at the throw on the relay to gun down the potential winning run on Friday. He was way out there in the outfield when Pearson got that ball near the warning track and got it to Milam, and that was a perfect strike to Luis Hernandez. They get the runner out at home. So the arm strength is there. Daniel Dickinson, I made a comment yesterday, and I don't know, maybe I was a prisoner of the moment. But I made the comment yesterday, just watching him play, I think Dickinson's maybe as good of a second baseman as LSU has had since DJ LeMahieu. I really think that. The guy covers a lot of ground, and again, he's another one that's really smooth out there. When the ball's hit to him, it's not like, uh-oh, what's going to happen here? He's going to get it. He made some terrific plays right after the throwing out the runner at home plate. He makes a great diving play to his left, that chopper up the middle on the defensive play of the year where he flipped it from his glove to Milam for the out. He covered a lot of ground to get behind second base and field that ball that was going up the middle. He was terrific. And then you extend it out to center field and Stanfield, and the amount of ground that guy can cover is pretty impressive. There were some balls that were hitting the gaps, and he would chase them down, running, and you would think, uh-oh, this is trouble. And then before you know it, Stanfield's there. So that to me was very impressive. I think this defensively, this is one of the better defenses that LSU has had. 2023 team was pretty good defensively too. So it's elite stuff with some of the plays that we saw over the 4 days of Texas.
So this was the teeth of the non-conference schedule, but my goodness, going to Omaha, Fort Wayne, Indiana, well, now we're going to bring in a Sun Belt, a warm weather team like North Dakota State in here. Does Johnson even what is the deal?
Jimmy,
what is the deal?
Hold on.
I'm asking a question. Did he even say anything about this non-conference scheduling? Maybe where it's, this is obviously the tougher part of this week non-conference schedule, but what happened? Did somebody fall out? Did somebody cancel? What's going on here?
Two teams fell out. Out. One of them got a new coach, And he said even this weekend they were supposed to have a Power 5 school. He wouldn't tell me who, but there was supposed to be a Power 5 school that was coming to the box this weekend, or a Power 4 conference school, however you want to describe it now.
Okay.
So
okay.
then they had to scramble and get Purdue Fort Wayne, and they had to scramble and get North Alabama this weekend. So this was not what he intended, and I don't know, if you put probably the truth serum on yesterday, he's probably not happy to see that Sam Houston had a 2-8 record yesterday. He goes to that tournament wanting to try to boost up the RPI. He was thrilled, over the moon, that they had a chance to schedule Dallas Baptist on Wednesday because he knew that was a good RPI team. I think he certainly doesn't like that. And he even talked about it earlier this season. They were in such a situation for the season opener that they were contemplating going on the road and playing in a tournament that opening weekend. But they were determined to open up the season at the box because that's what they've done for the last 20 years, and he didn't want to mess with that tradition. So
and Jeff, I know you follow baseball closely, and you were in Texas, this weekend. Was there any talk about what's going on at A&M? I mean, obviously, the coaching change was sloshed. That was an interesting 48 hours.
Yeah.
Everyone thinks they're literally going to lose their entire starting lineup. They get the assistant. All those kids come back. Obviously, the A&M Texas thing is huge. But then they lose the stud, last week, 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And then they don't play. Was there any talk around that? Because that's obviously a big deal in the SEC.
I think it's something worth monitoring. This is my opinion on things like this, and I think you see this on every level, whether it's in whatever sport it is. Whenever you hire the guy that the players want, that typically does not work. It just and I understand why A&M had to do it because they wanted to keep that roster together and so forth. But it's one thing to be in the assistant captain seat and be the good guy and not have to play the bad cop and do all that kind of stuff that the head coach or manager has to do. And then when you put that person in that role and they have to become a little bit more, of a hardened guy, and maybe they have to pull themselves a little bit further away as far as their relationship with the players and all that, the dynamics of it change. The dynamics
Jeff,
of it.
Where I learned that? When Jimmy Ott was managing the co-ed tennis team, he had to be he had to make some tough decisions, which is why he was so successful.
All right. So, hey, look, ain't no doubt. All right, Jeff, great job, man. Good job. Good. We enjoyed the call over the weekend and, throughout the week last week in Dallas Baptist as well. Great job, man. We appreciate you taking time out of Lundy Grove, man. We'll talk to you soon.
All right, thanks a lot, Jimmy. You guys have a good one. Happy Mardi Gras.
All right. Don't forget, this past weekend, we've got to welcome aboard a new sponsor also. Our friends over at Sammy's Grill. Well, Sammy's been around for my first sponsor ever, 33 years ago, huh? Yeah, it took me 2 years to get a sponsor, but Sammy's Grill, watching the LSU games over in the bar area. They got TVs throughout the whole thing. It's crawfish season, really starting to get nice right now. Very seasoned well. They come out Monday through Friday, 5 p.m., and on Saturdays at noon. And daily specials, Monday through Friday. They've got happy hour in the bar Monday through Friday as well. So that is from 3 to 6 p.m. So, but it's crawfish, and but also tons of other things on the menu as well. Po' boys, burgers, all made from scratch, the freshest ingredients. Their plate specials are outstanding. Boy, I tell you what, I had the bowl of white beans that were unbelievable recently at Sammy's Grill since 1988. Sammy's Grill on Highland Road near Starry. Take a time out live at lunch, live from the DraftKings Sportsbook here at the Queen Casino, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Live at lunch.
This is Charles Hanniger for the Thibodeau Store, 900 St. Patrick Highway in Thibodeau. As we turn the calendar to March, time to start thinking about those home improvement projects here in the spring. If you don't know exactly how to proceed, you're not alone. That's why the experts at the Thibodeau Store will always be able to point you in the right direction. You won't be wasting time on procedures that don't work, and you won't be wasting money on supplies that you don't need. Mostly, for these small projects, you won't have to hire a contractor, which can save you a lot of money. So much better than working off of a YouTube video where you can't ask questions. Also, at the Thibodeau store, you can go online. So many discounts online. Pressure washers on special right now here in the spring. And a lot of these items on the website are available for free home delivery. You need lumber that comes out of their sister property at the Pierre Part store, available for delivery too. They just recently, last fall, celebrated their 113th year anniversary. The Thibodeau store, 900 St. Patrick Highway in Thibodeau, and online it's thibodeaustore.com.
Live at lunch with Ott and Hanny from the Queen Casino on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
All right, so y'all mentioned touching A&M baseball a little bit. We know that some key injuries. We know preseason number one, and now what they like 14th. Okay, I mean, Schlossnagel left them last year. They hired the assistant. They promoted from within, which, you know, when you have success, it's worth a shot sometimes. But well,
that was also very emotional. If they didn't do that,
they got butthurt.
Grahovac and Laviolette, it was all but done. They were going to Austin. So you lose the coach to your rival, and then your two best players.
So that assistant the head coach now was bringing the key players with them to Austin.
He had them with him.
Okay.
And so
the
only way you keep them.
Okay. Well, I mean, it's short term. That's tempting.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't dive in, give him a 7-year deal, McMahon. But anyway, they're crying, whining a little bit about some social media posts. All of a sudden, you want people to care, now you don't want people to care. Well, I mean, the Kansas basketball players, they're having problems. They're getting some threats. Look, some things are certainly present line, but so criticism and sort of threats are two different things. But is it warranted, or is this okay? Here we go with college players are getting paid now.
That's right.
This is part of it.
I mean, you can't have it both ways, right? And like you said, there's a difference between threatening and doing stupid stuff and saying, "Hey, kid, hit better," or make a three. I mean, you invite that when you accept that payment, and I don't think you can have it. It's like Steinbrenner whining about people spending money. Come on, man, you can't have it both ways.
Well, yes, and I was wondering how this would exactly play out. I mean, look, Ohio State, they were killing them, before they made their run.
Football?
Gosh.
Michigan? Yeah.
Oh, my gosh, yes. Ryan Day's not the coach anymore with last year's format. 1 year format before. He's done. Because they don't make the playoff and lose to Michigan 4 straight times.
I'm glad you brought that up. It looks to me like, so they loaded the deck, obviously, Judkins, Caleb Downs, the guys they brought in. And it looks like they're going to be a good bit worse than they were this year. So do you think that that's going to be the way it is? In other words, you have a program that's got a combination of veterans, they bought the right kids, and they make a run. Because I don't think Ohio State's going to sniff the playoff next year.
Well, I think you say the right kid, and I'm not. I think that a lot of people could have done the job that Will Howard did. I mean, they were so loaded up front on both sides of the line of scrimmage. That defense was unbelievable. He just had to be adequate. What about his weapons?
Well, that freshman
the running
receiver.
game and the weapon. Oh, well, he's the best in the country. He's the best. He's the most talented kid in the country. Not even Smith, but he did get better. And then it was like Kelly, and I was wondering, part of the game plan, Howard might have gotten dinged in the Michigan game. And that's why their game plan was altered, because he went to the tent during the Michigan game to run up the middle and just get stuffed after stuffed after stuffed. When you got those weapons on the outside, it's just
a Les Miles game plan.
Let it go. Now he threw the interception that gave Michigan a cheap touchdown. Gave him the ball, I think it was like the 14-yard line. So that was after a goal line stance. They turned it right back over. Did Howard, but he had some. And we'll see. It's not going to be a drop-off like Michigan this year. I don't think so.
6-6.
But it is college rosters, and no matter what sport, are year to year. to your point. So we may see a little bit, but it's not going to be as drastic as Michigan, Max.
Well, I do think that idea of, can you build a dynasty? Can you sustain success? I do think that goes away because you're so much having to buy in. Basically, you got to put in all your hunger into a roster in terms of NIL money. And so that hunger naturally goes away a little bit when you win a title. You're not as hungry, you're not as starved for a title. So I do think we might see a little bit more fluctuation and not this dynasty run where somebody's just dominant every year.
You're talking about A&M was a little bit butthurt about Schlossnagle leaving, of course, to Texas. Well, one program that made more concessions because they were so butthurt they lost their guy was Notre Dame when they lost Kelly. We're going to give you money. We're going to give you more budget. We're going to give you this player budget. We're going to relax academic, entrance requirements. I mean, they gave them all the all of a sudden they wanted to be more committed than when Kelly was there because they got we're losing it. Yeah, you lost a guy to a program that the head coach they won the national championship with the last 3 coaches they had. I mean, you don't need the right guy at LSU.
Get over yourself.
Get it done.
But Max, to your point,
but they we'll see if A&M the key injury, but we'll see. If you think the coach is at fault for being the players being a little soft or being a little sensitive?
Yeah.
Do you?
Well, that's always coach-player dynamic. But back to your point, like take Texas. They lose a lot. I don't know, the Savior Arch, Jimmy's guy, will be playing quarterback in Austin, but they lose a lot off that. In other words, if you look at the Final Four, even the Final 8, you look at how many of those teams would you say, no, they'll be back? I don't know. Because Scadaboo's gone from Arizona State. Genty's gone from Boise. Again, Texas lost a lot. Georgia. I mean,
Georgia should be back. Georgia should be back.
Quarterback.
Yeah, this guy was. I mean, they didn't have the quarterback for the playoff this year.
They're hungrier than they've been in a while. They haven't won in two straight years. LSU hungry right now.
You say that, Max?
In the portal.
That front four, that was everything Georgia had, man. When they were rolling, the Jalen Carters
they
of the
don't.
world,
They don't have no. Well, I mean, that's why they beat everybody by 100. When they got to the playoffs, and they were struggling. I mean, they had some competitive games that they just didn't have in the past. But still, I think the roster. I'm worried about a bunch of it. You know what's got my attention too? Where it's always a given, the SEC always dominated the draft. It's like one of the top 10 projected in this year's draft. I mean, maybe the league. I mean, maybe this thing is going backwards. Where I thought it was going to separate the haves from the have-nots. The SEC teams have the most budgets, and they should have the most. They certainly got the most support and interest as well. They should have the better rosters. And this thing, I'm looking at the draft this year. I was like, this is not a typical year in the SEC, as far as the draft is concerned.
I would say it's a down cycle. You're betting against a lot of history to say that's going to change.
A lot of history and resources, too.
Yeah.
I mean, they don't. It's one thing. Auburn's trying. They're down right now, but they're trying. Well, and they're getting their budget up. Georgia's going to have their budget up. LSU's going to have a competitive. Texas and Texas A&M, we know about them.
The one to me, Jimmy, Oklahoma is going to have to figure out, do you want to be permanent middle class in the SEC? Because, A, I don't think Brent Venables is the guy, and B, to me, that's screen. Auburn's right in there right now. They're not close to sniffing the playoff. Not the way they're currently constituted, right?
Oklahoma's got as much history, you talk about, as anybody in the country. Okay?
Wow.
And now they've got SEC money in revenue. They just have a lot tied up in their coach right now, which they were premature on his extension. But the football, maybe the basketball program, no. Maybe the others, no. Yeah, their gymnastics and their softball, they're all in. But the football should have the resources and the money to be, competitive with anybody out there.
Nobody's giving them a hand up in the SEC, though. They're going to have to earn that.
Well, the SEC screwed them with the schedule the first 2 years.
Terrible.
I mean, it's awful. I mean, it is. I mean, that was a joke. I mean, what they gave Texas and when they gave Oklahoma. I mean, an absolute joke. And all it does, and you got it for one more year. You just flip-flop. You play the games, you play the teams you played at home, you play on the road. But that was a relentless schedule. Brutal schedule.
Well, what doesn't help them, too, is their quarterback situation. They move on from Gabriel. They let him walk. They think Jackson Arnold's the guy, and then whoopsies.
They had a imperfect storm as well. You can't have the amount of injuries they had versus that schedule and have Jackson Arnold play Warburton. But that's part of their problem. They nudged Gabriel out of there. That's a bad move. You know, just like you can have poor evaluations for certain guys you spend money on that don't come through. I mean, it has to be smart money. It's not money.
At some point.
So the nudging, you know, I mean, they nudged your boy out of Ohio State.
I think at some point there will be a market correction on that. We've seen a lot of quarterbacks kind of getting pushed out for the young guy. We're seeing too many mistakes at this point. You know, Ohio State, that's not a mistake for them because they won a national title. You know, Will Howard maybe wasn't as productive, but for them that's not a mistake. But, you know, Kansas State pushed Will Howard out. They wanted Avery Johnson. They want to see what they had there. We've already mentioned Gabriel. They
definitely nudged him. Yes, indeed.
Plenty of quarterbacks that got sort of nudged out for the young guy. I think at some point you'll see a correction where, hey, maybe we got to trust what we have already.
And Max, the interesting one is going to be Miami.
And the continuity within your program, if you have another year, it's a big. You should have improvement.
Miami, because Miami paid a lot for Carson Beck, coming off a pretty significant injury where he's not even been able to throw until the late summer. I think it was the number was
there were not a lot of tears shed for Carson Beck, and as a team, it's not Carson Beck's fault. He's got his own immaturity issues. Okay, you know, and if you're gonna get a Lamborghini, don't get a hatchback. Okay, dude. All right, and you don't need a Mercedes and a Lamborghini. Okay, dude. All right, and you're also hurting yourself for the draft because they're taking notes in the NFL. Like, really, is he more consumed with what football brings than being a football player? But he needs a little bit of, a mentor in his support group. But it's not his fault that they lost that front four.
Sure.
All of a sudden, that they lost both sides of the line of scrimmage. I mean, Stetson Bennett. I mean, how would he have done when he had to do more? This past year. So it's just the quarterback gets too much of the credit, too much of the blame. That's the way it goes, and I think that's the case because Beck's got his own issues. But man. They roll them cats out there.
And Henry,
did you see Jalen Carter in the NFL? He's pretty good.
The only thing about Miami, they're going to keep spinning. They've been spinning for a while. They got the money. They got the booster that
they're going to continue to overspend on certain guys,
or not.
You know, but hey, they need to spend more on those interior linemen.
Yes,
because they're not close. No. The defense, man, just get a couple of linemen like Ole Miss did. Kiffins is in the SEC. Ole Miss had a chance this year. They had a real
SEC
chance.
in the draft, that's the strength, defensive line. I watched a good bit of the combine between Pierce, Shamar Stewart at A&M, Walter Nolan, of course. That's the one thing that the SEC still has a stronghold on is defensive front right now.
Don't forget our friends at Los Reyes Mexican Grill on Lee, just off of Nicholson, right across the street from Mike Anderson's. Went over there and got my fajita steak, my steak fajitas over the weekend. Man, I did the shrimp. Also, man, grilled shrimp are really good. You know, the one thing I look at for a Mexican restaurant, if they make their own today. That's right, those homemade tortillas. That's what they do over at Los Reyes. So, love those homemade fresh rolled flour tortillas. You can tell the difference. They're really good. Try that char-grilled shrimp as well. And excellent stuff. Always 3 TVs behind the bar. Mr. Kyle doing a great job managing with Mr. Scott, Ms. Blair behind the bar. Los Reyes Mexican Grill on Lee, just off of Nicholson, across from Mike Anderson's. Live at lunch, live at the DraftKings Sportsbook at the Queen Casino on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Lunch with Ott and Hanny from the Queen Casino on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Show Bill Belichick in the wait, Hard Knocks is college now?
Hard Knocks off season. They could not get after the Giants' mess of a performance in that last year, the inaugural off season Hard Knocks. No NFL team would agree to it. So I
felt it was a little embarrassing as well.
Just a little.
They showed Mara, saying, okay, but I just can't handle if Saquon goes to a division rival and they win a Super Bowl. Well, bingo. And he also set an all-time record for regular season and playoff rushing yardage ever.
There was also, and a lot of this is the way it's clipped. You know, the producers have a lot of control over this. They sort of showed Dable kind of prying at Jaden Daniels in terms of his knowledge of the game a little bit, while some of the other quarterbacks, Caleb Williams, he was just gushing over him, right? Oh, this guy's great. I love this guy. Jaden Daniels, oh, well, you forgot, the play call that I just gave you, rapid fire here. So there were a lot of things that did not age well for the Giants.
How much that that Belichick had detailed outline of the administrative support he wanted, staff money, NIL money, the whole bit. He brings Lombardi over there. Lombardi's going to handle the question from the sophomore running back's mom, who said, "No, we need more money, Coach." Well, this is what we have. He'll handle that. Belichick, how much could it be? But still North Carolina, so you got to think that they're stepping up a little bit in support to get him, right?
Have to.
Okay. And how much will be where North Carolina is still North Carolina and has never done anything, so there's going to be a ceiling, even though it'll be more. And how much is going to be like a Bill Arnsparger effect here? Because that's what reminds me of. I'm actually a little too young for this, but Arnsparger is one of the most respected defensive minds in the NFL at this time. And he comes from the Dolphins. He had a stint, wasn't a good head coach with the Giants, but comes over to coach LSU, and it was instant. They're blocking better, they're tackling better, the organization and game management is better. It was a fine-tuned machine. And it was a short shelf life. Here for 4 to 5 years, and he moved on. But, man, LSU was better. LSU was well coached under Bill. Never liked to recruit a ton, and so that kind of wore off a little bit, but he got the most out of their roster. There was no question. And I got to believe if he's got the support to handle the rest and he can just coach, I think Carolina, you won't see them give up these 350-yard rushing games like we've seen sometimes.
Well, so much of a change about this, it's not just about Belichick, it's what he's taken over. And to be honest, just my raw assessment of it, I didn't think Mac Brown did a very good job there in his last few years. They could not find a defense, like you mentioned. They just could never get over that. And they had some talent at times that got drafted, some quarterbacks that did well in the class, and Marion Hampton right now is one of the top. He's right there with Jincy, according to some people. I think Kuiper actually has him as the number one running back in the class. So they've had some talent, and I think Mac Brown underachieved. So I do think that turns over where I think Belichick can get more out of the roster.
Well, the other question is, you have to ask, was it Tom Brady or Bill Belichick, and what was the component? It's the same thing, this is not new. We've seen this before with head coaches and quarterbacks. And so who gets more of the credit? I think, look, Brady goes and wins one in Tampa. Belichick was never the same when he left. It's a complicated answer, but to say that Bill Belichick didn't greatly benefit from having number 12 with him for, 15 years? Come on. Like, they covered a lot of sin in that New England roster with Tom Brady being as good as he was.
Belichick, personnel-wise, you could criticize him because he didn't Brady minus 1 year when he had Moss and the other complementary pieces instead of being on the outside. They were
bargain bin.
They set records. But, yeah, I mean, they just wouldn't pay anybody. And they let guys walk all the time. I think Willie McGinnis was one of the
Lawyer Malloy, they let him walk early.
They let a lot of guys, walk. So, but no, Brady and Belichick would. But what great run doesn't? I think both, Henry. I think both were really, really special at what they did, and
sure.
I think, yes, he's going to benefit from. But I thought Belichick's his strength was they had a flexible roster. He liked guys that played dual positions, play both. He had guys playing more both ways at different times than anybody. Troy Brown, all of a sudden, he's playing cornerback in this game, and this guy's playing defense in this. Doing a lot of different things. And when they were playing the Rams, and Tom Brady was a game manager in his first year starting, they played between the tackles, they shortened the game, and they played that way. When they would play the Steelers in the Ravens, they would spread it out, go finesse. So go power against the finesse teams. So he had a different game plan and he was smart enough to acknowledge what game plan they had to go with, finesse or power, based on their matchups. And I thought he was brilliant at that. Max, they had one playoff game. They're playing the Ravens. Brady, they were giving up a lot of points. Brady did not run the ball one time in the second half. Didn't run the ball in the second half. Well, that's not balance, is it? Well, he wants to be with this particular. Screw it. You throw it every time. I mean,
Well, how hard is that schedule going to be, honestly?
It's weak.
I mean,
North Carolina's weak. It was weak this year,
Yeah.
and that's what really did Brown in, too. But it's weak next year as well.
Very manageable.
It's weak.
Clemson's the best in that league.
It's Clemson, and Florida State's got all kinds of issues. Miami's,
They get Clemson at home. They've got, outside of that, NC State on the road. I mean,
they were terrible this year. We don't. I mean, like I said, we got to do some. Once the transfer portal, once with spring practice is done, spring practice that's going by the wayside, huh?
Mm-hmm. They open the season.
More and more teams are getting
out of that,
especially Nebraska, who fills their stadium, and then your boy, nope, we're not doing it.
Matt Rule,
yeah, so not doing it.
They open the season hosting TCU on the Monday night, September 1st. We'll see right away, I guess, against a half-decent team, but TCU was not the same last year.
Belichick's going to play on the standalone Labor Day night game?
Monday night, 6:30.
Really?
Is that game back in Vegas, Max?
That'll be at home in
it wasn't in Vegas.
Okay.
It was. I mean, last year it was.
LSU was Sunday night.
Yeah. Last year it was Florida State and Georgia Tech, huh? Or Florida State and
that was
Ireland, wasn't it?
Yeah, there was an island, but I think they came back and played another standalone.
Yeah, Florida
game.
Florida State played Boston College. That's what
they
it was.
lost again.
Yes.
0-2.
Yes. And that was a Labor Day night game. That
had a little bit of time.
Talking about pieces to pick up. Florida State this year. Wow.
Jeez.
Right?
You're asking me, do you need to see more than that? It's how the rosters are year to year. Undefeated, and the ACC's not strong, but still, it's a Power 4 league. Undefeated to, you win, 2 games?
Yeah.
My goodness. With that, take a time out. We'll come back and wrap things up on this Monday edition of Live at Lunch. We're live here at the DraftKings Sportsbook at the Queen Casino. Charlie chasing chickens in my move this Lundy and Mardi Gras. So we'll still be on today and tomorrow and all throughout the week as originally scheduled. We'll take a time out. Come back and wrap things up here from the Queen Casino. Live at Lunch, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
With Ott and Hanny from the Queen Casino on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
All right, wrapping things up over here. Max, you watched a lot of. You got a pick for us tonight? You like anything? Duke laying $1 million. They cover every time, though. I mean, geez. I mean, they lay 25, and I mean, no problem each and every night.
Yeah, I'm not going to touch that game. Was it like 20?
21, 20 and a half.
Yeah. I'll still clear of that one.
Shire looks like he's. I was skeptical, but he's.
Well, this year he's got a roster,
but they're young. To be fair,
no, they're young, and so we'll see. It is a bad league.
Oh yeah.
This year, but they're just killing everybody. I mean, they're showing a little maturity for being a young team, but not being sloppier with some of these weaker opponents.
If both of you had to bet on one team to win it, the tournament, who do you
Auburn.
pick? Really?
I mean, they're the favorite. Yeah,
over Duke.
Absolutely. Oh yeah,
Max.
I think right now, I would take Duke.
Duke's got more NBA players. There's no doubt, but Auburn is older.
Mm-hmm.
They're 1 year younger as a team than the Oklahoma City Thunder, and their quad one wins. They got just a few more than Duke.
Sure,
like 19-4. Okay, so they're battle tested.
He's starting to sound like Trump. I like it. It's like a Trump Skip Bertman combo.
I'm not sounding like
yes,
Trump.
You are. Yes, you are.
No, I'm not. No, do not politicize me.
Auburn, number one net rating for Auburn. Strength of schedule on KenPom this year.
No, well,
it's almost like you follow this stuff.
Yeah. Max, no kidding. Well, they went to Maui and they're playing the SEC.
Yeah. Alabama's number 2.
Max, keep hitting the balls in the water, okay?
I'll hit it out of him. I'll take my shoes off and.
Oh no, that's a bad move. It's a bad sign. Tomorrow tomorrow Doe's Eat Place. We're doing this show as usual for Jordan back in the studio. Peace. We're out of here.